Thank you, Madam Chairman. Let me follow on the question from the chairman here about the assertions that have been made not only through the Wall Street Journal article with the interview of Kevin and Rich Gates, who assert that they have been denied what they believe is basic fairness over a period of years by the Office of Enforcement. The suggestion is that it's bullying or perhaps worse. I mentioned in my opening the Energy Law Journal article that came out last week, but which I understand has been in the process of being written for some period of time. So I'm assuming was not timed, Mr. Bay, to coincide with this hearing, but the statements contained in that article, which the chairman references, are pretty tough, suggesting that while most members of the regulated community and practitioners within the energy bar are reluctant to say so publicly, there is a widespread view that the FERC enforcement process has become lopsided and unfair. I think it's just critically important that the FERC be viewed as this unbiased entity that really is even-handed. And again, Mr. Bay, your comments to me about the importance, really, of going the extra mile to make sure that fairness, in fact, is in place. So a couple questions, and I'll start off with you, Mr. Bay, but Ms. LaFleur, I want you in this conversation as well. As it relates particularly to the information in the Wall Street Journal article, you've indicated to me, Mr. Bay, that you couldn't respond directly to my questions as to that case because of commission rules that you couldn't divulge certain information. I'm assuming that is still the case, or is there more that you can convey to the committee that would allay these concerns about the particular Gates allegations?
Only the Commission can disclose whether or not an investigation exists, and thus changing the investigation from its non-public status to a public status. What I can say, and what is a matter of public record, is that the PJM Market Monitor referred the up-to congestion matter to the Commission, and the Commission issued an order unanimously directing the Office of Enforcement to open up the investigation. But I can't say anything more than that because everything else would be non-public.
So is it your understanding then that it will be opened up to investigation?
That will be a decision for the Commission to make.
Okay. Then just following on this, the law review article asserts that when individuals are under FERC investigation, FERC enforcement does not have to provide access to deposition transcripts or provide the information, even exculpatory evidence to individuals that has been shared with the Commission. Is this also correct? And I guess the broader question would be, do you believe that individuals should have access to their deposition transcripts and the information that's been shared with the commissioners?
Senator Murkowski, you raise an important issue, and there are really two issues. One goes to exculpatory evidence, and the other one goes to access to deposition transcripts. On access to deposition transcripts, in the great majority of cases, the transcripts are released to the person who has been deposed. The regulations that FERC has, however, provide that that the transcript access can be denied if there is a concern over the integrity of the investigation. And in those instances, however, while the access to the transcript might be delayed, eventually it is released. It's not a question of whether or not the transcript will be released. It's a question of when. The other thing is that...
But if I may just
yes,
interrupt
please.
there, if it's a question of when, if the individual isn't able to gain access to that in a timely manner in order to prepare his or her rebuttal, doesn't this limit their ability to effectively advocate their side of the issue?
What happens under the process we have is that the lawyer for the witness is able to attend the deposition. The lawyer can bring a paralegal. The paralegal can take copious notes. And the transcripts are released before the show cause stage of the proceedings. I would also say that one thing that's very unique about FERC's process is that staff prepares a preliminary findings letter for the subjects of investigations that includes a factual summary as well as the allegations regarding potential violations. So there's a lot there that does happen, even if in individual cases there's a concern over the integrity of the investigation, so there's some delay in sharing the transcripts.
Well, and Ms. LaFleur, I'll ask this of you as well. If you have allegations out there or assertions that the FERC's enforcement process raises serious fundamental due process and substantive concerns, I would suggest that this is a problem for us, whether it's within the Office of Enforcement or whether it's the Commission as a whole, because I don't think that this reflects well on certainly on the Commission, but I don't think it reflects well on the Office of Enforcement either. How do we respond to allegations of serious fundamental due process and substantive concerns?
Well, Senator, I think anytime anyone who practices before the Commission expresses views, we have to listen to them. Among all the views that we hear, I respect Bill Sherman and his the thoughts he expresses in the article. I think I'm quoted in the article at a House committee saying we should always be open to ways to improve any aspects of our work. At the same time, I think there is an alternate point of view to that expressed in the article. Enforcement's a very important part of our work because it underlies reliability and market fairness, two tenets of our work. It's normal that the people who are the subjects of investigations might have a different view than those conducting them. And, I stand by all my votes on both enforcement orders to show cause and settlements because I think they were fairly conducted. But if there are ways we can learn to do it better in the future, I think we should.
Well, this is something that I would like us to have an opportunity to get into further because it's one thing if you have a disgruntled CEO or corporation because they don't like the penalty that has been assessed. But it would appear to me that we're talking about more than a few disgruntled individuals, that there is a concern perhaps about process. And Mr. Bay, unfortunately it reflects on you since you have been at the Office of Law Enforcement now, the Office of Enforcement now, since 2009. So this is something that I would like to delve into a little bit more.